The fire alarm was still blaring when I stepped over the threshold of the study, the smell of scorched eggs and burnt toast clinging to the air like a curse. The kitchen was a disaster. Mia had never been much of a cook, but this morning she'd tried. I remember thinking, why today? Why now, after all this time, is she making breakfast? She'd left in a hurry, said she had to meet her friend Camila, something about a boutique sale and an early lunch. She'd kissed my cheek, said she loved me, and asked me to check if I could fix the alarm. I never got to the alarm. Instead, I found the letter. It had fallen behind the drawer in the antique roll-top desk my father left me, the same desk I used to play hide-and-seek around as a boy, the same desk he built his first company from. The letter was folded twice, no envelope, the ink faded and feminine. My name wasn't on it. But hers was. Mia's. At first, I thought it was something sentimental. A poem maybe. Or a journal entry. She was always scribbling notes to herself in notebooks she never let me read. But this wasn't for her. And it wasn't about me. Elias, don't worry. 2 more months and I'm free. This charade will be over. He suspects nothing. Once I get what I need, I'll vanish. Be ready. Love you forever. My hands didn't shake. My vision didn't blur. I just stopped. The sound of the fire alarm dissolved into the background. My eyes scanned the letter again, slowly this time. Word by word. Sentence by sentence. Reading not just what was written but what was implied. She wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to take everything with her. Including me. I suppose I should have felt rage. Or heartbreak. Or betrayal. But what I felt was clarity. I saw our wedding replay in my mind like a bad dream, the courthouse in Charleston, the white dress she'd chosen in one afternoon, the way she cried during the vows, how she said her family in Argentina couldn't make it because of visa issues. I believed it. I believed all of it. Every goddamn detail. And why wouldn't I? She was beautiful. Smart. Curious. From the moment she stepped into my business law seminar with her careful notes and accented English, I was hooked. She asked me a question after class that turned into coffee, then dinner, then weekends in the mountains, then living together. Then marriage. She always said I saved her. That she felt lost in America until she met me. She never mentioned Elias. Never mentioned that she was married already. That she was running a game. That I was the fool in the front row clapping for her performance. I walked out of the study, letter folded neatly in my palm. I didn't burn it. I didn't scream. I didn't call her. I made a pot of coffee. I sat down at the kitchen island and drank it in silence, the fire alarm finally dead, the smoke lingering like an omen. And I started planning. Because Mia made one mistake. She thought I was just another lonely American man she could charm, marry, and discard. She thought she understood who I was. But she never met the real me. She married the professor. The kind man. The one who wrote her recommendation letters, who learned her native language to impress her, who cooked her grandmother's empanadas from scratch. But she forgot the blood in my veins belongs to builders, strategists, fighters. My family didn't just give me a name. They gave me a dynasty. And she thought she could take it from me? No. Not this time. She wanted to play a long game. She had no idea who she was playing with. They say hindsight is 20/20ths. But looking back, I wonder if I ever had sight at all. When I met Mia, it was a warm September afternoon. I just finished lecturing on business ethics, ironic now, thinking about it, and was erasing the whiteboard when she approached, clutching a worn notebook and a beat-up translation dictionary. She smiled nervously and asked, in careful English, "Can you explain this phrase?" "Might as well. We don't have this where I come from." Her accent was soft, lyrical. Argentine, but smoothed by months of immersion. I pulled up a chair. 10 minutes turned into 30. One grammar question became 3. Then we were talking about literature. About Borges. About home. She told me she missed the smell of eucalyptus after the rain. That she hated the sound of American police sirens. That she came here to learn business so she could eventually open her own coffee house like her grandfather had in Rosario. God, she was good. It wasn't just her story, it was the way she told it. The pause before each word, the little self-deprecating laugh when she made a grammar mistake. She had the humility of someone trying to make a new life and the fire of someone determined not to fail. I didn't fall in love that day. That would have been too fast. But something changed. I stopped seeing her as a student and started seeing her as a chance. A month later, we were inseparable. We'd meet at the tiny cafe 2 blocks from campus before my classes. She'd always beat me there, sketching in her notebook, I scanning the window like she was chasing inspiration. She wore these oversized sweaters and little rings that slid up and down her fingers when she gestured. Her laugh was easy but never careless. Her touch, subtle but deliberate. I told myself I was being cautious. I had just come out of a brutal engagement. A woman who wanted the title of wife more than the life. Mia felt different. She didn't ask for anything. Not jewelry. Not dinners. Not promises. She asked for time. Time to study. Time to understand America. Time to build something real. I gave it willingly. We moved in together 6 months later. She said her lease was ending and my place was closer to school. She never asked. She just suggested. Gently. By the time she mentioned her visa, I was already halfway in love. I don't want you to worry, she said, her hands trembling as she poured wine one night. But my visa, student 1, will expire soon. I apply for extension, but... She trailed off, her voice cracking in a way that made me reach across the table and take her hand. I told her not to worry. That we'd figure it out. I didn't propose that night, but I started thinking about it. I even asked my mother if she still had my grandmother's engagement ring. You've only known her for 9 months, she warned me. But you've never looked this sure. I was sure. What I didn't know was that so was Mia. We married without a ceremony. Just us, her friend Camila as witness, and a judge who couldn't pronounce her last name. We celebrated afterward with cheap champagne and street tacos. She said it was perfect. That first year felt like magic. She made mate every morning, humming as she boiled the water. She corrected my Spanish as I tried to impress her parents over video calls. She held me when I woke up sweating from dreams I couldn't explain. When she finally got her green card, she cried in my arms. I thought it was gratitude. Maybe part of it was. But slowly, things started to change. She started going out more. Camila became a regular name in her stories, nervous, flighty, always needing help. Mia would dress just a little too carefully for their coffee runs. New handbags. Expensive ones. When I asked, she said Camila gave them to her. She has rich friends, Mia explained. I don't ask questions. I didn't either. That was my mistake. Soon, she'd come home late, whispering in Spanish on the phone. She stopped inviting me to her weekend plans. Always had a reason. Always had an excuse. And every time I asked questions, she'd look hurt. Accused. You think I'm lying to you? She'd say, her voice trembling. After everything? So I backed off. Because I loved her. Because I wanted to believe her. Because I couldn't imagine that the woman who once fell asleep tracing the lines on my palm had been tracing her escape route the whole time. I didn't know it yet, but the cracks had already spread beneath the surface. I just hadn't stepped hard enough to fall through. Not yet. But the fall was coming. And when it came, it would not be gentle. The night I followed her, I told myself I just needed clarity. Not proof. Not revenge. Just the truth. But truth is like fire, you don't reach for it unless you're ready to burn. It started small. A location she'd claimed to be in, but wasn't. A coffee shop that closed at 6 p.m., yet she said she was there until 9. I drove past on a whim, expecting to see her car. I didn't. Instead, I saw her walking down an alley behind a closed boutique. She wasn't alone. A man was waiting for her. Tall, well-dressed, younger than me. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. He handed her an envelope. She hugged him. Not like a friend. She didn't see me. But I saw enough. The next morning, she made pancakes. The good kind, the ones with vanilla and nutmeg she only made on my birthday. It wasn't my birthday. She kissed my cheek and told me she loved me. Asked if I was coming home early. I lied and said yes. She lied and said she had yoga. That night, I contacted someone I never thought I'd need, Cameron Hall. A former student turned private investigator. He owed me a favor. I was cashing it in. You think she's cheating? He asked. I think it's worse than that, I replied. He raised an eyebrow. Worse than cheating? I slid the letter across the table. His face hardened as he read. Okay, he said. Let's find out who Elias is. What followed felt like stepping into someone else's life. Cameras. Phone taps. Surveillance. Digital forensics. I became the passive observer in the relationship I used to live in. And what I learned shattered me. Mia wasn't just lying to me. She was running a con. With Camila as her partner, they were arranging fraudulent marriages between desperate immigrants and paid U.S. citizens, charging $30,000 to $50,000 per match. Mia had her own bank account under her maiden name. It had over $200,000 in it. All hidden. All untaxed. I was just the first act in a larger scheme. But that wasn't the worst of it. She was still married. Elias, real name Elias Navarro, was her legal husband in Argentina. A known document forger. On the run from tax and identity fraud charges. They had never divorced. Their plan was simple. Mia marries an American, gets citizenship, brings Elias over legally as a spouse, and disappears with the money. And me? Just collateral. Just a well-dressed, emotionally convenient visa. When Cameron showed me the final report, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I laughed. It was ugly, bitter, violent laughter. I laughed because I realized something terrifying. I hadn't married a woman. I'd married a business model. And I was about to bankrupt it. The first step was playing the part. Loving husband. Supportive partner. Oblivious fool. I cooked. I complimented. I kissed her goodnight. All while Cameron gathered more data, more names, more trails. When he brought in the federal agents from the Immigration Fraud Task Force, they didn't believe the case at first. Until they heard the recordings. Until they saw the network. Until they realized how many couples Mia and Camila had set up. How many lives they bought and sold. One of the agents, Lauren E., took point on the sting. Sharp, no nonsense, and immune to charm. We'll need to make this airtight, she told me. No drama. No outbursts. We need her to walk into it. Willingly. I want to be there, I said. You'll do more than be there, she replied. You're going to bait the trap. So I invented someone. A colleague at work. Liam, a British exchange instructor with an expiring visa. I casually mentioned his situation to Mia over dinner. Poor guy, I said. He's so desperate to stay. Says he'd marry anyone at this point. She froze mid-bite. Just for a second. Then smiled. Camila might know someone who could help. I pretended not to notice. She took the bait. The next week, she arranged a dinner at our place. Just us, Camila, and a friend of a friend who was looking for a husband. The conversation was careful, coded, but Cameron had the room wired. The offer was made. $50,000. Half up front. Marriage papers signed in 2 weeks. No risk. We had everything. The voice. The faces. The bank account. The timeline. All that was left was her. Her interview for full citizenship was scheduled in 3 weeks. That was our window. Lauren said, you walk her to that interview like it's the happiest day of your life. We'll handle the rest. The night before the interview, she wore a new dress. Navy blue. Elegant. Her hair was perfect. Her eyes gleamed with excitement. I've never been so nervous, she whispered as we stood in the bedroom mirror. But tomorrow we start a real life. I looked at her reflection. The woman I once loved. The woman who studied me like a script. You'll be amazing, I said. She kissed me. And I kissed her back. Because tomorrow I'd be the one walking her into a room she wouldn't walk out of. And I wanted the kiss to be the last lie she ever told. The morning of her citizenship interview, she was glowing. Mia moved through our apartment like a bride on her wedding day, a flawless dress, soft perfume, every strand of hair in its place. Her makeup was understated but exact. Her answers to the standard USCIS questions were rehearsed to perfection. We'd practiced them for weeks. Or rather, I let her think we had. She didn't know that every one of those rehearsals had been recorded. Didn't know that the love in my eyes had been replaced by strategy. Didn't know that the man driving her to that government building was no longer her husband but her executioner. And she had no idea how many people were waiting on the other side of that door. As we entered the Federal Immigration Center, she squeezed my hand. Her palm was warm, slightly damp. I feel like everything in my life's been leading to this, she said. I nodded. Mine, too. The waiting room was filled with couples, families, nervous applicants flipping through folders. The American dream processed under fluorescent lights and fingerprint scanners. Mia Navarro, a woman called out. That wasn't even her real last name anymore. But she rose with dignity, clutching our file, and turned to kiss me. Wish me luck. You won't need it, I said truthfully. She disappeared down the hallway. The moment she passed through the door, Lauren E. gave the signal. Inside the interview room, everything was recorded visually, audibly, legally. They began with basic questions. Names. Dates. First apartment. Where she kept her toothbrush. What side of the bed I slept on. She didn't hesitate. Her performance was flawless. Calm. Confident. Practiced. Until Brendan, the federal agent playing USCIS officer, laid the marriage certificate from Argentina on the table. Can you explain this, Mrs. Navarro? She blinked. This is a mistake, she said. That's not mine. You're saying the signature isn't yours? He held up another paper. What about this bank account? Or this photo of you with your real husband, Elias Navarro, last spring in Buenos Aires? And still, she played. I want a lawyer. You're entitled to one, Brendan said. But know this, you're being charged with marriage fraud, federal conspiracy, money laundering, and document forgery. This is no longer an interview. This is a criminal case. Her silence cracked like thin ice under a heavy step. They brought me in then, not because they needed me, but because I needed it. Closure. She looked up at me, wild-eyed, trapped. You set me up? No, I said. You set yourself up. I just let the truth catch up to you. You bastard, she spat. You think you're the hero in this? I leaned forward, looked her in the eyes. No. I think I'm the only real thing you ever touched. Then I stood and left. She screamed my name, begged, cursed, threatened. But none of it mattered anymore. I was already gone. The trial was quick. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings. Wire transfers. Her admission. Testimony from at least 10 couples Camila and Mia had arranged. It was the unraveling of a fraud empire across 3 states and 2 countries. Camila turned informant in exchange for a reduced sentence. Elias was arrested in Argentina. Mia? 5 years federal prison followed by deportation and a permanent ban from U.S. soil. It was everything I thought I wanted. And still, there was no joy in it. Only release. I moved out of the apartment we shared and into the small house I'd inherited from my grandfather. I changed my routines. Cut my hair shorter. Went back to work. My students didn't know what had happened. I didn't tell them. What I told myself, though, was simple. She wanted my life. She got my silence instead. A year passed. I started a support group, Marriage Fraud Survivors of South Carolina. We met once a month in the back of a church rec room. At first, it was just 5 of us. Then 20. Then 50. Men and women. All ages. All professions. All fooled by someone they thought they knew. Our stories were different. But the feeling was always the same. You weren't stupid. You were kind. And someone used that against you. I started sleeping again. Not because the pain disappeared, but because the truth had stopped running from me. Then one day a letter arrived. No return address. Argentina postmark. Faded handwriting. Elias is gone. I work at my father's cafe again. I know you'll never forgive me. But I did love you, Cole. In my own way. I hope you found someone who deserves you. Because you deserve better than me. It was signed, simply, M. I didn't cry. I didn't even reply. I folded the letter and placed it in the back of my filing cabinet behind the documents from the case. A page of the past. Nothing more. Now, when I look back, I don't see failure. I see fire. And I walked through it. I lost a wife. But I gained something far more valuable. My freedom. My clarity. My story. And I'll never let someone write the ending for me again.